Hi, LinkedIn fam. Happy Friday and welcome to CANNAfact Friday Live. We are here to tell you about what's going on in the cannabis industry through the lens of stats and data. And as always, we have some amazing experts to provide context and help us make sense of what's going on in the world. My name is Adriana Hemans. I am the VP of Growth at ISA, an insights firm based in Los Angeles, and I'm joined by my co-host, the often imitated, never duplicated David Palaschuk, the author of the first book about branding for cannabis, Branding Bud, the Commercialization of Cannabis. Hi, David. Happy Friday.
Hey, Adriana. Happy Friday. I'm pleased to be with you as always. How are you today?
Yay. I am great. I'm excited for this show. I think we have an awesome guest today.
Me too. Me too. She's one of my favorites, and I know she's one of yours, so I'm excited about that. I'm excited to be here every Friday and just to chat with you. You know, for those that don't know about Adriana, she comes from the world of research and insights, and as she said, she's the VP of Growth at ISA. And I should just note that she was yesterday a moderator on ArcView's online event, and she was just fantastic. That was on Web 3.0, cannabis and NFTs, and just wow, that was fantastic. So
yeah, such a fun panel of experts, and they just knew a ton of stuff. The women who were on the show who had been from Etsy and had helped bring Meta to life with their new focus on Web3, just really some astounding brains in the room. So we'll definitely share that video on the CANNAfact Friday page when it's ready.
Yes, that was awesome, and I learned a lot. And I think with all the I don't know, different thoughts on what NFTs are and how they actually affect the cannabis or can affect the cannabis industry or just industry in general, I thought was really amazing. So a big props to you. Woo woo. And woo woo. And yeah, that was awesome. And to ArcView as well. So that said, I'm really, again, grateful to be here with you and everybody that's hanging in and listening to us. Adriana and I have partnered up, and we get together and we do things like this, and we speak and we talk about cannabis, and we connect data points together and make sense of all the different information and sound bites that we get. And we come here every Friday with the best of the best and thought leaders and influencers in the industry, and we chat with them about what's going on, and we try to take more than just one data point or sound bite, but many, and connect them and basically make sense and put things into context. So that said, welcome everybody. Few things to note. We always have our chat bar at the right, so please feel free to join in and ask questions and participate as we move through it. It's going to be fun. We got 45 minutes to chat with our guest today. And Adriana, do you want to introduce our guest?
Yes, absolutely. Our guest today is Sarah Falvo, who is the managing director of business development at ArcView Consulting. They help the biggest brands in the world design their services, maximize their potential for marketing opportunities. And also, Sarah is just a general badass, building communities, connecting female entrepreneurs, and helping women in cannabis. And I've been so inspired by the work that she's been doing over the past few years since we've gotten connected. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you so much. And, back at you guys, you both are two of my favorite people too. So thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here today.
It's straight up love fest.
That's right.
Friday today. And as David mentioned, we're going to go through a couple of interactive activities. So feel free to put your guesses in the chat. And also, if you just have questions for Sarah, feel free to drop those in there too.
Absolutely.
That's right. So we're bringing fun and facts. Sorry, we have to have fun and CANNAfacts to the show.
Yes.
Always fun.
So Sarah, can you tell us a little bit about your background for people who might not be familiar with you who are tuning in?
Absolutely. So I'm Sarah Falvo. I have been in the cannabis industry for about 5 years, which, that whole dog-eared joke, it definitely absolutely feels like decades. I have been around cannabis my whole life. Grew up in Southern California in the 80s, and we could just say my preschool tuition was paid from the proceeds of cannabis sales. And so it was always a part of my life. I was doing nonprofit fundraising for an art museum prior to joining the industry and just wanted to change. So I kept, thinking about what I wanted to do, and it just kept coming back to cannabis. So I had an opportunity to join an executive search and staffing firm that had just stood up. So I was their first employee, and that was back in the heyday when, MedMen and Acreage and Kush Bottles and all of those folks were hiring like mad. So it was great. It was a great way to kind of jump in headfirst into the industry, learn about everything from day one. And then I got an opportunity at the ArcView Group and have been with them for, 2.5 years at this point, and have just enjoyed helping them build out different programs and verticals within ArcView as well. So currently I'm sitting on the consulting side. So I help companies with things like valuations, business plans, pitch decks, and market expansion plans. And then, like you said, I run our women's groups, our women's inclusion network, and we have over 200 women across all verticals in all of the states. And we are really just there to empower them with mentorship and tools for their toolbox to succeed as they scale and raise funds and set up their businesses. So, do a little bit of everything, as everyone does in this industry. So, but I'm happy to, be a part of it and hopefully just, making a little bit of change somewhere.
Yeah, I love that. Such a diverse background. And the Women's Inclusion Network is really a great place to meet people. The women there are like so welcoming and so kind. It's really great.
Thank you.
And bonjour, Riel. We have an international viewer from Montreal. Welcome.
Hello.
Riel from Montreal. And Sarah too. You didn't mention it, but you were also the head of community at ArcView too, which is, I think, just really speaks so well to who you are. The fact that you are as social as you are as knowledgeable as you are, both about the plant and about business and about fundraising. And you're really one of the few people in the industry that understands all aspects of the plant and of business and how it's coming together. So it's just it's kind of no surprise you are where you are and you kind of function in the role you do, but it's pretty wonderful. And for those people that don't know Sarah, reach out to Sarah, because she's pretty amazing.
Thank you. And I'm always open for connecting with people and helping them try to, just figure out the madness of this space. It's not an easy industry, that's for sure. So just always happy to be an ally and a friend to people too.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So let's jump in and do a little interactive game, CANNAfact or CANNAfiction. How are you guys feeling? Are you ready?
Woo! Yes.
All right.
I'm always ready.
And for those of you who are listening in, feel free to drop your guess in the chat. It'll either be a CANNAfact or CANNAfiction, so take your best guess. If it's fact or fiction, less than 25% of working professionals in managerial roles who consume cannabis are comfortable talking to their coworkers about cannabis. So we ran this poll in late 2020 with 450 respondents, and these were folks who are working full-time as managers or directors, or we had VPs, C-level presidents. We wanted to talk to people who are basically like a powerhouse in whatever industry. It wasn't just cannabis, it was all across the board. And we wanted to know, are they open about consuming? I would say too, I was looking at this data recently because we presented it in Chicago, David and I recently, that they are people, like, I think the average income was over 100K. So like high performing people, are they open about their cannabis consumption? The job of our audience is to guess, is it less than 25% who are comfortable talking about it with their coworkers, or is it over 25%? Let's see, we got 3 facts and 1 fiction. See if there are any other guesses. Looks like the consensus is fact.
And that that anonymous fact is showing in the startup as well. Hello, Charlie. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Lauren, welcome.
And I guess too, there might be some questions around, where is this taken and what industries are they in? There's lots of there's many variables, right?
It was really a spread, right? So there's people in manufacturing and hospitality, in marketing. It was really just all over the board in terms of like the industries. Really, the defining factor is people who were working full time and people who managed a team. It could be a small team or a team of one or two, but just managing a team.
And I bet the locale also probably made a difference. California tends to be a little more loosey-goosey with this, which I feel lucky to live here in California and be a little more open about it. So that's interesting.
This is a nationwide survey. Oh, and also for context too, part of the thing that we were exploring is what changed for these people when they started working from home. So these are all people who already are cannabis consumers. And we noticed a huge shift in terms of, without giving away the answer, we noticed a huge shift in terms of people being more open about their consumption when working from home became a thing. So I think like 75% were in an office full time before, and then the pandemic came and 80% were then working from home. So it was just a huge change in lifestyle. And with that brought a huge change in people's willingness to be open about their cannabis consumption. So there's a little hint for you. So should we reveal the answer?
We should. I guess, Sarah, do you want to take a guess at it?
Yeah, I would say that that's a CANNAfact, so less than 25%, because I've always kind of been vocal about my consumption, but that is absolutely not the case in the circles that I've been around. So on the professional side, prior to cannabis.
Okay. We still need a drum roll. We haven't worked the drum roll yet.
Yeah.
So it was a lot higher than 25%, 44%. And remember, this is with their coworkers. So if it was with your boss or maybe your boss's boss, maybe a different story. But with coworkers, 44% said that they were comfortable with their coworkers knowing they consume cannabis.
Wow.
Interesting stat of the day for you.
That is really interesting.
It's been such a huge change, I think, over the last 2 years. Whereas in 2019, it was something that even if you work in cannabis, you don't necessarily talk about it as much. And then now everybody's just out here. I'm stressed out today. I took a gummy, and everyone seems to be fine with it. Again, our perceptions is skewed because we're in California, but I do think that it's like been a huge change across the US.
Absolutely.
Well,
so cool. Questions.
Sorry?
I cut you off. Go ahead, David.
No, I was just going to comment that our friend from Montreal was asking what he won today.
Some weed. I'm just kidding. We can't get it over to you.
Right, but unfortunately, it can't cross any borders or lines. You'll have to accept our good spirits for the day. Thank you, friend from Montreal. Bonjour. It seems like from some of the stats that there's a skew leaning toward males being more open to to share amongst their coworkers about their consumption. What's your take on that, Sarah? Why is that a societal thing? Is that
Totally. I think that's a societal thing. I think, women in general are viewed or may be viewed as more, I don't know, motherly. Like, say you're a mom, then people would be like, you're a mom. How do you, like get your children ready and do all these things while you're stoned or whatever? So I think there's definitely more of a stigma that women are just aware of and are probably less open about their use. But I mean, as we all know, and the stats that I've seen from Adriana over the years, women are consuming a lot. So I think it's definitely, I think it's just a woman thing, unfortunately. I've definitely been more open in the last couple of years about my consumption as more people are getting comfortable with it as well. So I think, those that will change, but I think women just tend to hold a little more closer to the vest in terms of things like that.
Yeah, I always have my I probably shared this with you, but I have my mommy mint story where I co-parent and I was with my young son in the park and the kids were all playing and there were a group of mothers and I was the only dad and one of the mothers pulled out a tin of what looked like Altoids, but they were Mr. Moxie's mints, which many of us in
Yes.
the industry know. And she asked anybody, the moms, if they wanted a mommy mint. And I looked at that and I said, a mommy mint? That's Mr. Moxie's mints. Like I know Tim Moxie. He's the one who created it. He's here in
Right.
Seattle. Um, and they all sort of got flush. And so I was joking and I said, so while you're hanging out at the park with our kids, you're microdosing, and taking mints, aren't you? And they all kind of giggled. But they asked me how I knew about Mr. Moxie's mints, and I told them that I was in the industry. And of course, we all, gasped in relief. But our secret was fine with each other. But it's just interesting to see how, at least my experience too, is that women tend to be more discreet than men about their consumption.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of people kind of liken, maybe not people in the industry, but outside liken cannabis to alcohol in terms that, it has an effect on you in different ways. But so I think there's also a misconception that if you're consuming cannabis in public, like it would be like you're like having like a drink, but it's not the same. A 2.5 milligram mint is not the same as like a Long Island iced tea, and it's not the same effect. So I think, outwardly, a lot of people might think that. And that's also why people don't want to share because it's like, I'm not getting like messed up at the ball game. I'm literally like trying to help a headache or just trying to like, ease the stress of the day with like a tiny microdose. So I think it's also that because alcohol and cannabis are not the same. And
Mm-hmm.
all they can be intoxifying. It's not the same.
I hear a lot this phrase, the Chardonnay moms, and a lot
Hmm.
of like people in cannabis who are bringing beverages to market, but also edibles too, or anything that has, I think, like a wellness spin on it. They're saying like this is our target audience because these are women who just want to take the edge off versus the consumer who's like, to your point, drinking a Long Island iced tea.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'd
Mhm.
rather have those Chardonnay moms having, Kiva Caminos or something, like something low dose rather than drinking a whole bottle of wine every night.
Mhm.
Right. And
No,
I think
you do that some.
Yeah.
I'm telling myself that. Sounds like
it's
David had a little mini focus group in the park with the moms and the
Yeah.
I did. I did. That was fun. But this also speaks to sorry, I guess a little plug here. Adriana and I are speaking at the Cannabis Drinks Expo, and what we're talking about is the new beverage consumer, and how she's thirsty, and it really speaks to this desire for discretion, a desire for microdosing, or maybe it's more about wellness. Adriana and I always talk about, there's the subtractive or additive approach. So, that's either you take something for focus or you take something, for sleep or to medicate in one way or some form. But those are different mind states than someone who's at the baseball game getting trashed or on their third Long Island iced tea. So there is a new wave of consumers, and there she is on her way, right?
Mhm.
It's really interesting, and we'll see what happens. But I think it's happening, and we're starting to
Yeah.
see it in both the numbers and in the moms in the parks with their mommy mitts.
I think it's
Definitely.
about what fits into your lifestyle, right? If you're a parent, you're not necessarily going to be consuming the way you were when you were a teenager with like a
Right.
bong or a joint. So these new form factors and new products that are like more lifestyle focused will be the ones that will capture that 1/3 of the market that is not currently a consumer but is interested in trying it, but they're just looking for like a most accessible entry point that fits into their lives and doesn't disrupt their time with their children or their time when they have to go to work in the morning. So
Yeah.
it's really like that working professional category that I think will be a huge focus moving forward. I'm curious because Sarah, we were just talking about like being open about in the parks. I'm wondering. So I saw a post that you did on LinkedIn maybe like a couple months ago. I'm not stalking you, I promise.
No, it's okay. I stalk people on LinkedIn.
I loved your sweatshirt. It said, "Today's good mood brought to you by THC," and you
Yes.
said you were wearing it when you took your daughter to school. And I was like, wow, that's like so brave of her to just be all the way out there and like let everyone, that your kids, friends, parents know. And I'm just curious, was there like a moment when you said, I'm just going to be open. I don't care who knows. I'm just going to be myself.
Yeah, it was. I would say it probably came about 2 years ago, and I just got to the point where like people kept finding out, like kind of in my outer circle, like not my close friends, that I was working in cannabis, and they'd come to me like at drop off and be like, hey, like my mom is, going through chemo. Like, do you have any? And just over and over. And then I was like, you know what? Let me just kind of be open about it so people do feel comfortable to come and ask me questions and know that I can be that point person and that kind of knowledge center for them. So I am not kidding you. I like, even in the last few months, I've probably had a dozen people who have never consumed come to me and ask, like, just for recommendations. And it's been really interesting. And I think also I have kids. So like my daughter will be 12. One of my daughters will be 12 next month, which like blows my mind, because I'm only 21. No, I'm just kidding. Not even close. But but I realized too, like, she hears me on these calls. She's in the other room right now. She knows what I do to some extent, so I need to be more open about it too. So even, for example, a couple of weeks ago, I was like, I'm not going to drink any alcohol. It was over like July 4th weekend. I mean, and usually I would like imbibe probably every day. But literally that whole weekend and the week leading up, I only touched cannabis beverages. And so we even had a conversation. I had a conversation with her. I was like, this doesn't have alcohol, but it, does have cannabis. So you can't have it, but these are the things, blah, blah, blah. And it was just an interesting conversation. So I knew that like being open about it would have kind of benefits in my personal life, my professional life, and it all kind of trickles together because it's a huge part of my life. At the end of the day, it's a part of my every single day life. So I just decided that I'm going to be open about it.
I think that's really cool. I get the same thing. I wear like a cannabis t-shirt to the gym sometimes, and people will come up and be like, oh, hey, I have a question about this product type.
Like you're a walking bud tender too, or something,
Yeah,
you're like, all right, sure.
it says cannabis research, and they're like, oh, what are you researching?
Yes, yeah. And it's funny because when I wore that sweatshirt, someone actually a parent gave me a high five on my way, like walking out. So I was like, all right, So I think it just helps people become more comfortable also talking about it and knowing it's kind of a safe space with me.
Mm-hmm.
It's so intriguing that you said that. My son is 12 years old too, and I'm not 21, by the way. What's interesting is he came back recently and said that his friend at school kind of teased him and said, "Hey, I heard that your dad wrote a book on weed," and just like you said, my son hears me speaking all the time. He hears me using the word cannabis. He's not really heard me use the word weed, so
Yeah.
he fully connected the dots. But what was interesting was, so the friend that teased him about his father writing, a book on weed, my son came home and I said, it's okay. It's the first book on cannabis branding ever. I kind of expected that. But when you go back to school tomorrow, let your friend know that his mother, who's an attorney, is neck deep in licensing cannabis brands across the country. So just let him know that his mother is, while an attorney, is in the industry as well.
That's hysterical.
conversation the following day, and I think it was normalized a bit amongst their crew.
Yeah. It's really interesting. And I think it's, it's our job as parents too, to also explain it the right way to them, because there are, they're young, they don't really understand. So it's kind of up to us to tell them the right terms and just set the stage. And, like hopefully they'll be, more conscious about consumption when the time comes.
Right. Absolutely. And just I'll make this very quickly too. A parallel story to you is a friend of mine who owns a cannabis infused beverage company that makes these gorgeous bottles, and they come, in a beautiful box. Had sent me a product, and I left it on the table, and not thinking it was flour or anything smokable, which I would never leave out, but this was beautiful, and I left it on my dining room table, not thinking about that. And of course, when my son came to my place, he looked and he said, "Wow, that's really interesting." He looked at the packaging because he's into that like I am. He looked at the name, and he said, "Is this a wine? Is this a whiskey? What is this?" And I freaked because all of a sudden I realized I had left a cannabis product out on the table. And so I felt like I had really made a big mistake. But what that did was open up the door to talk about cannabis in a very different way, to talk about the different types of form factors and why people would use different form factors for different means of consumption, and that it wasn't just flour and getting stoned. And
Yeah.
so in some ways, that mistake for me became an opportunity, and I hope there's other parents that are listening that might learn from this, or even learn from other parents who have stumbled through this conversation. There's got to be many ways to do it, but there's probably better ways than others. So
Sounds like
thank
we
you.
have a show topic. Sounds like we have a
Yeah.
show topic to explore that with some parents. We have a comment from
Yeah.
Lauren. I once
Yeah.
outed another parent in the same vein, and it did not go well.
Oh, sorry, Lord. But you don't know until you try it. So it's okay though, and that's
You got
not
to hang with
anybody's
us, Laura.
fault. Yes, exactly. Love it.
Gosh, time is going by so fast. I think we're going to have to just zoom through the next two stats. David, are
It
you
is.
ready
So
to throw up the next one?
let's do it. Yeah. Let's do the next ones. Who's ready? All right.
Okay.
This is a fact and fiction. And still speaking along the gender line, male cannabis consumers in professional managerial roles are more likely to consume before and during work hours than their female counterparts. Again, this stems from a study of 450 people. 116 of them are women, and the field dates are September of 2020 through October of 2020.
And this is the same poll that we mentioned earlier. US nationwide, 21 plus people who manage teams work full time in a professional role.
This is an interesting question. I have my own theories too.
All right. Well, we're curious to hear your thoughts because I've been talking way too much, and we're running out of time. So, what are your thoughts? CANNAfact, CANNAfiction, male consumers, professional?
I think it's a CANNAfact, and I'm only saying this more so also because of the tone of the industry. Unfortunately, it's a little bro-ish, and a lot of that means kind of puffing up your chest about consumption and, the fire flower that you have and all of this. And I think it also lends into what I said before about women just kind of being a little more, closed off about being so open about their consumption. For me, I'm a huge consumer, like huge, but I don't tend to do it during the day because I just need to get stuff done. And like, I think I'm a mom to two girls too. So there's constantly a swirl of things going on in my head that I need to focus on. But like the second that, I have some room in my head, then I do consume. So I think that is a CANNAfact with the males.
Cool. And not to give it away, we are, David and I will be sharing some other data related to this, like how consumption, particularly of beverages, looks different between men and women, and that like men are more interested in giving them energy or helping them feel creative during the day, and women are tend to consume for it to help them relax and unwind, which is what you just mentioned, Sarah.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Great. Well, the answer is it's a CANNAfact. And even though I know Riel in Montreal says it's fiction, I think women do it more than men. I think he's just trying to egg us on. That's what I think.
That's right. The CANNAfact.
It's CANNAfact.
Thanks everybody for guessing.
There we go. And so, you know, we could see that male consumers in professional managerial roles are more likely, right, to consume. And you know, I'm curious, Sarah, to get your take on this. Do you think, you know, over time this will, you know, sort of change and even out? Do you think this, as things normalize and as cannabis becomes more acceptable, will this, you know, sort of balance out more equally?
I don't know. I think a lot of the women I know are just like, for me, again, like I'm a stoner. Like, like I will own that. I am 100%. But again, I'm not like, I don't do wake and bake, you know? So I think it's just the way that women are operating right now. And I don't like to paint like a broad brushstroke because that's not good for anyone. But I think that we'll still continue to just kind of focus on what we need to do during the day and then find it for relaxation. And I think these facts are exactly it. You know, like it shows 87% after work hours for female. And that, like Adriana said, more for relaxation and just kind of clear your mind. So I think it'll continue on this trend. I'm not sure why, but you know, coming from a female stoner, like who doesn't smoke before work or really during. You know, I don't know. It's interesting. Time will tell.
Yeah, I think it is interesting. And I'm also curious because we've been talking a lot about female consumers and sharing like our stories of like our personal consumption, our friends' consumption, because you, Sarah, know so much about what's going on in the business world and with women entrepreneurs. What's happening with that? Can you give us a little like what are the hot topics right now? What are people facing and what are people talking about who are working in this field who are also women?
Absolutely. So we had a women's event through ArcView a few weeks ago. We had about 85 women come, and we had 17 female founded and female run companies pitch. So it was really interesting because out of all of those 17, there was not one company that was doing the same thing. And it's also interesting because a lot of it, you know, was tech focused or specifically female focused for, you know, like sexual pleasure or things like that. So I think that amongst the female entrepreneurs, they're getting very creative with the products and the companies that they're launching. You know, it's not just another flower company. It's not just another edible company. It's really more kind of thoughtful at, you know, the get-go, just about, you know, what they're creating and who they're creating it for. So it was really interesting. It was across like all different kind of verticals, all different subsets. So I just found it fascinating because there was not one person who had the same type of company out of 17. So I think just more creativity and, you know, just more thoughtfulness too.
And just a quick question, Sarah. You know, is there a connection between? So you just spoke about the female entrepreneur, if you will, but and then the investors. Are the investors skewing female as well that are interested in the female-owned businesses?
That's a great question. So I would say even out within the last year or so, there have been more female investors coming forward too, and just kind of, you know, taking the lead on deal flow and the actual investments and things like that. So we were really just thrilled to have a number of female VCs at this event as well. So, Journey One was there, Merida was there. We had a lot of other women investors as well. And that was interesting too, because I don't think there has been really a place for all of them to come together too. So it was a really good experience for them to kind of be surrounded, because also if you're a female investor, that's typically a male dominated side of things as well, especially with funds and family offices. So just to have the opportunity to gather all of these women, and they may have only been one or two women in, their whole investment company, to have them all in a room was unbelievable. It was great, because they are so thoughtful with like their feedback and just giving advice to these women. And, they want to support women. So they're putting their money where their mouth is, more or less.
That's really cool. When we were at MJ Unpacked there, which, as you know, is a very investment focused conference, there are people that go on the money stage and present their ideas and are seeking investments. I had a couple conversations about investors and what are they looking for with people who run investment groups. And they said something interesting that surprised me, is that no matter how great your business plan is or how exciting your product is, what they're really investing in is the person running the company. Do you think that's true, Sarah? Have you seen the same thing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially in this kind of next wave of cannabis. And I think a lot of, people who maybe in cannabis 1.0 had some exits and they're on to their next, journey or next company. People are looking at that right now because it's a very small industry. Everybody kind of knows the founders. Everybody knows the teams more or less, or you're 1 degree of separation, like we were talking about before, something like that. So I think it's such a small industry and everybody's very interconnected right now that people are hedging on people, because you can see a track record, what they've done, the companies they've run before. So it's just really interesting to kind of like, see all that.
You heard it here first. In the rest of the world, there's 6 degrees of separation. In cannabis, there's 1 degree.
Exactly. I have to let my husband into the office. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
And that's like,
yes, exactly.
And
that's his Yankee jersey. So although I live in San Diego, yes, I am married to a New Yorker.
I love that. Should we go ahead and share the last stat of the day?
Yeah.
Sure. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So this one is a little bit trickier. It's not just a 2-option guess. It's not just CANNAfact or CANNAfiction. This one's a Canna choice. You have 3 options. And the question is, which group of dispensary shoppers, men or women, is most likely to be loyal to one retail location? A, men, B, women, or C, no difference? And as you're guessing, for those of you who are watching and playing along and interacting, I also posted this question on LinkedIn to see what our LinkedIn networks would say about this question. And here is what they said. 38% said women, 25% said men, and 38% said they don't know. They just want to see the answer. And we have a comment from Cheryl. I'm a doctoral student and a wake and bake girl, also working on my dissertation on cannabis at USC. Oh, that's awesome. I've graduated magna cum laude and use cannabis to control PTSD and pain from my military service disability. Wow. Thank you for sharing, Cheryl. That's a really interesting story. And good luck on your dissertation. I know that those are extremely a lot of work.
Absolutely. That's awesome. And thanks for being open about your consumption.
Yeah.
That's awesome in your life. I'm it's really interesting too. The one thing, well, why don't we go through the answer? Because the thing that I always find intriguing, having worked in the credit card industry at MasterCard and American Express for so many years, I look at shopping and transacting and purchasing kind of really different. So I'm just curious to hear which group of dispensary shoppers, men or women, are most likely to be loyal.
Well,
there you go.
That makes sense. And I'll only, again, using myself as a litmus test. Yes. I tend to only go to one around here.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I have one that I love. I go there over and over again. This was also, so just for some background on the survey itself, nationwide, 21 plus, had to have shopped in a dispensary in order to be able to answer the question. And yeah, we saw that women were more likely to say that they just went to a single one. Interesting.
Wow. You know,
Thanks
Sarah,
to everybody. Yes.
when you made that comment, I thought you were commenting on men in general more more than more than your personal.
No, that's funny. No, but I'm definitely, loyal. And I'm also brand loyal. I'm kind of
Hmm.
flower agnostic, but like gummies and carts and things like that, beverages, I am pretty brand loyal. So I go to the store or this particular retail outlet because I know they carry those brands.
Right. You know, it's interesting, and so I'm curious to get your take on this. But when I talk about or think about, shopping and purchasing, there's the transaction, which is your gas or your coffee, and you know what you want to be on your way. Or there's the shopping experience, which is whatever, a Nordstrom experience or a learning experience, right?
Hmm.
You know, what's your take on why it skews more female, that they want this experience in quotes versus, hey, I'm just here to buy my pre-roll and get me out the door, and there's no connection. What's your take on that?
That's an interesting question. So for me, it's not even the experience. I mean, it was when I first went in there because it's a gorgeous dispensary and everything like that. But for me now, it's just I know it's the ease of the transaction. I know that all their product lines are going to be there, for the brands that I want and things like that. And it's just an easy thing because I have the app on my phone now, so
Right.
I don't want to like shop around to 90 million different, dispos and see what the best price is. So it's more just ease from my end. But I think in the beginning, it was the experience. Like it was gorgeous. They had like, tons of products in all lines. So it was more kind of that in the beginning that hooked me. And then
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of kept me because it was easy.
Right.
Yeah, it sounds like we should also share some stats. We do a lot of surveys with dispensary shoppers. Like, what are you looking for? What's important? What would make you come back to the same place again, or make you not come back? Which we did share some of them, but knowledge of bud tenders is definitely a big thing. And then also the product selection, which you just mentioned, Sarah, is a huge deal for people because maybe they're loyal to one brand and they
Yeah.
know that the place they go is always going to have it. So that's why they show up there.
Yep. Absolutely.
This has been such a fun conversation and it went by so fast. Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us and sharing your knowledge and your insights with us. I'm so excited to see all of the amazing things that you're doing and continuing to support entrepreneurs and help people get investment and help them bring their business to the next level. It's like so awesome.
Absolutely. And feel free to reach out to me, anybody on the call. It's Sarah Falvo at arcviewconsulting.com. We can have a chat, help you scale, get your company set up. And if you're looking to exit, we do valuations and strategic transactions as well. But thank you both so much. I mean, this industry just shows that it connects amazing people together. So I'm so happy that both of you are in my orbit. And I really appreciate you having me on today.
Of course.
Likewise.
Our pleasure.
Likewise. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Once again, before we close out, we just want to say thank you, Sarah. We really appreciate all you do. And everyone, please follow Sarah. Before we close out, we have our information in the sidebar. So please follow us, join us, and sign up for our CANNAfact Friday information. It's all right there on the screen. Um, that's it for today. As always, thank you everybody for joining us. I can't believe it's Friday again. Thank you, Adriana, and all the people that support us in this effort. We'll see you next week. And before we go, do you want to call out who our guest is next week quickly, Adriana?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. We're going to talk about some exciting things. Her name is Nicole Upshaw. She's the
Yep.
Executive VP of Human Resources at Jushi, which Jushi is a very exciting brand. And we're going to talk about staffing and company culture and how to find the right people to make your brand amazing. So excited for that conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sarah.
Have
Thank
a
you.
great weekend.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
See you next
Bye.
time. Bye-bye.